When the currents are against you, never give up, no matter what. Know that you were built for this. So soar, soar. It's too big to ignore. Why fly when you can just soar, soar? Why fly when you can just soar?
Hello everyone, I am Valerie Houston and I am the CEO of Soar Again. Soar Again stands for Starting Over, Access Restored. And during this time in my life, I feel like it's very important to talk to people about the twists and the turns of life and how you reach your ultimate purpose. And on our first episode, I'm so excited that my first guest is actually my family member, my first cousin, my first hero, Russell Cross Jr. Russell was an amazing basketball star, and in life he has experienced success and all of these things in life that have brought him to a really great place. This is going to be a two-parter, you guys. It's so great. The first part, you're going to see this big success story, you know what I mean? It's a huge success story. On part two, we're gonna delve into a touchy subject about mental illness and wholeness and how you get to that place of soaring again. I promise you, it's amazing. You do not want to miss this conversation. Let's go in, let's go talk to my guest, Russell Cross Jr. Everybody, welcome. I've got my guest here today, the one, the only Russell Cross Jr. Welcome.
Thank you. It is an honor to be here today.
It is an honor to have you, everybody. This is my cousin. So I might, from time to time, end up calling him Big Fella because that's what we call him. Does it bother you when we call you Big Fella?
Not at all.
Okay, good. So before we get started on talking about some really great things today, I kind of want to play a game, and the game is called Shoot Your Shot.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question, and then after you answer the question, I need you to turn, and I need you to shoot your shot, okay?
All right.
Hopefully we'll make it. If not, that's okay.
Never been good at free throws. But we're going to give it a shot.
Okay, cool. So the first question I have for you, what is the biggest lie you've heard told about a preacher's kid?
That they were all saved.
Okay, because preacher's kids got to find their way as well.
Oh, absolutely, right?
Okay.
We grew up as preacher kids, and we lived in the block with preacher kids, and we probably had the biggest rival between the two of us.
Oh, wow.
Two families, right?
Okay.
So, yeah, we definitely have to have found our way.
Absolutely, and I think it's important for people to find their own individual way. So since you answered that question, go ahead, shoot your shot.
All right. I'm going to shoot it lefty.
All right. Oh, well, that's a good shot right there. You took
I think that went in.
That definitely went in. Okay, the next question is, you've traveled the entire world. Mm-hmm. What is one of the biggest myths that people have about Chicago?
Myth that it's always cold.
Okay.
Right.
But when it is cold,
it's cold, but they think it's always cold.
Oh, wow.
Here, right? So,
have you ever been anywhere that was colder?
No. not in the wintertime. I mean, Denver may have challenged us a little bit.
Okay.
Because it's a different kind of cold.
Okay.
A little drier cold, but no.
All right, shoot your shot. This time, don't take the rim out here.
Should I underhand it?
They could. Well, I think that's what it's gonna be. He's just gonna be a demon basket slayer for the rest of the night.
I tell you what, I used to dunk it like that. So
our last and final question for our shoot your shot game: what would you say is the biggest misconception about fame from your point of view?
Ooh, that's a nice one, right?
Mm-hmm.
That fame will make you happy.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
That if you have money and all this recognition,
mm-hmm.
that things will go well in your life.
Okay.
That to me is the biggest one, right?
Okay.
Everybody has to understand that you have to have the right people around you,
mm-hmm.
the right resources, a mentor, right? Somebody that understands, that have gone before you, that understands it better than you do.
Okay.
So,
shoot your final shot.
right.
All right.
I got two of them.
and again. So
All right.
you know what? But I kind of like that you take the basket out because I want to talk about your childhood for a second. Russell Cross Jr. was born and raised on the west side of Chicago. Born as the second eldest to Russell Sr. and Annie B. Cross, he was known as the protector of his family member and friends. As he grew older, he chose competitive sports as his outlet. He, along with his brothers Bernard and Emmanuel, joined a neighborhood baseball team, which made him a big Chicago Cubs fan. But his foundation was always established in the church with his family, which deepened his faith in God. Then one summer, out the blue, Russell experienced a 6-inch growth spurt. He stood at 6 feet, 10 inches tall, and led his high school team, the Manly Wildcats, under Coach Willie Little, to 2 city titles and 1 state championship, garnering him the MVP award as a McDonald All-American. He then became a college star at Purdue University under the tutelage of Coach Gene Cady. After completing his junior year, he elected to forego his senior year and entered the 1983 NBA draft. Russell was a first-round 6-pick draft to the Golden State Warriors. In later years of his basketball career, Russell played in Italy and Spain's European basketball leagues, where he learned to speak Spanish fluently. Recently retired from management roles for Fortune 500 companies and basketball coaching stints, Russell has pivoted into his most purposeful work yet, as a motivational speaker and an ordained pastor of the good news of Christ to audiences across the world. He is the loving husband to Marilyn D. Cross, father to 1 daughter, Erica Cross, 4 sons, the late Russell Jermaine Cross, Kevin Reed, Brandon Reed, and Jaquay Wilkerson. Pastor Russell and Marilyn are grandparents to 5 grandbabies: Dulcie Cross, Victoria Reed, Ariane Cross, Russell Jermaine Cross III, and Fallon Davis. He is also a brother and friend, always sharing humorous stories about his refined core: faith, family, and fishing. So the reason I brought up the West Side for everyone is you grew up on the West Side, you went to school on the West Side. That little kid that you see on the screen right there, most of his life was the West Side. So talk to me about childhood, before basketball, before you, what was it like on the West Side in the 70s?
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, it was a little bit better.
Okay.
In terms of crime. We had a little bit more family-oriented neighborhoods.
Okay.
But growing up, my mother was really concerned about our security.
Okay.
Us making it from school time back home.
Okay.
Even when we had leisure time outside.
Okay.
So we spent most of our time in our yard where we played. And we would invite our friends to come over.
Okay.
They would do that as well. And then as we grew older, she allowed us to venture out a little bit.
A little bit.
And we still we played baseball, and that kind of got us to the place where she kind of trusted that we would be in a group, and we would travel to neighborhood and to neighborhood and play baseball, right?
So let me just set this up for everyone. You're one of 6 children.
That's correct.
All grew up on the west side of Chicago.
That's correct.
What do you think what did your parents, if you had to give it one word, what was it like in your house? What was the driving message of the house?
The driving message of the house was we're going to church. That was the message. Both of my parents were, at the time that we came up, were well endowed in the church.
Okay.
Both were ministers, and they really instilled in us the importance of being in church.
Okay.
Right. And again, they had the concept of family.
Okay.
Right? So we would again mingle with families at the church.
Okay.
We would go and visit people in their homes. have dinner, they would do the same.
Okay.
So the thing that they told us was to not only go to church, but also to know God.
Okay. Right? So I would think that for most people, you don't have 6 people in a family. Tell us like what you feel like was the pros and possibly the cons of a big family. And not a rich family, a big family. So just kind of talk about that a little bit.
Well, the thing is, we grew up again on the west side, as you mentioned.
Okay.
And we were not a middle class family.
Okay.
We were a poor family, right? And
Okay.
when we grew up, call it the first 3. My older brother Bernard, myself, and my sister Karen.
Okay.
And we all stayed on Van Buren Street.
Okay.
Right, and so we didn't even know we were poor. We always said that that we were
Most
so
of us didn't know we was poor.
Exactly.
Okay.
We were so poor we couldn't even afford the R. It was just POO. We were poor. Right, but we stayed together. After a while, we started to have other siblings that came aboard.
Okay.
Right, so we had my mom and my dad had 3 other children that came in. Pastor Emmanuel, Michelle, and Jackie.
Let me ask this question before you go there. I know we're going to talk about the pros and cons,
Sure.
but did you ever feel like, because you were older, did you ever feel like the younger 3 were more like your children than your siblings?
No.
No. Okay.
No, I did not.
Okay.
I was kind of the person that sheltered the family. I was the fighter of the family, so I protected those guys, especially Bernard. He won't say that today, but that's exactly what took
Bernard's
place.
gonna
Right?
check us on this, yeah.
So I felt that I was the protector of the family, and that was my role. So if anything happened to them, I would step out and be that person, right? And it didn't matter who that was, right?
Is that something your mother drove, or that was just something in you that you knew you had to protect them?
Well, she instilled it family.
Okay,
right?
okay.
And I just kind of assumed the role.
Okay.
Right. And then at that time, I wasn't the tallest. Me and Bernard were probably the same size, right? But he was a lot thinner. And he's a lot more pushing the envelope, if you will, with other people.
Okay.
Right. So Karen wasn't that, but Bernard definitely was. Right? So I took on that role that I would have to defend them.
Okay.
Right. By myself. Right. And one story I have for you is that one day I left Bernard fighting. Okay. And I arrived home, and Mom asked the question, "Where Bernard?" And I said, "Well, Bernard is still at school fighting."
Okay.
She said, "And you left him there?" And I went, "Yeah, absolutely, I left him there. I'm tired of fighting these battles."
Okay.
So she immediately corrected me and sent me right back down there. And when I got back down there, Bernard had all these pop bottles and sticks and a brick, and he's trying to defend himself, right?
Wow.
So it was my own duty assignment to defend the family.
So you talked about, for a long time, you and Bernard were the same height. Mm-hmm. When you started growing, did it shock you?
Did it? It shocked all of us.
Okay.
Because there was a summer where I grew 6 inches.
Wow. In
one summer. So it was we started out in the winter being around the same size. And by the time summer got here, I was actually taller than him.
I'm going to ask you a question that I don't know that anybody's ever asked you.
Okay.
Was it always basketball, or was it something else you wanted to do?
No, it was baseball.
It was baseball.
Baseball was definitely my avenue.
Okay.
Right, and until I had that growth spurt, that's what I was going after.
Okay.
Bernard was playing on there. Pastor Emmanuel was playing on that team as well.
Okay.
But baseball was definitely it. And when I had the growth spurt, somebody introduced me to play basketball.
Okay. So you didn't feel like you were forced to play basketball. Did it, since baseball was your initial love, do you feel like that? I guess where I'm getting is sometimes I feel like maybe people just automatically assume because somebody has height or because they have this, that's their line in life. Sure. Do you feel like that happened to you, or do you feel like after you were introduced to it, it became a passion, it became a love, it became your course?
I think it's both, right? Okay. The assumption definitely was there as I grew. Okay. Right, that I would play basketball. I could still play baseball at this height.
Okay.
It wasn't favorable at that time to do that.
Well, you could have been like a quarterback like Eli. No, just go ahead.
So when I had the growth spurt, I was introduced to basketball.
Okay.
And I began to like it.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And I desired to be on the team. The interesting piece is my best friend, who turned out to be my best friend, was Maurice Watson.
Okay.
And I saw him, I didn't know him at the time, but I saw him playing on a rim in a gym.
Okay.
And I was like, this guy can really play.
Okay.
I would like to have that kind of talent.
Okay.
Right? And he and I became best friends, and I kind of hung with him.
Okay.
Right? Because even at 6'3", 6'4", I didn't have the talent.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
I was raw and uncut. Right?
Okay.
Couldn't really dribble the basketball, couldn't catch the basketball.
Is that because you were still kind of getting used to the height?
Yeah, I was getting used to that spurt, right?
Okay.
That growth
Okay.
spurt, right?
Okay.
It was definitely uncoordinated for basketball. Still played baseball.
Okay.
That was my passion and my love.
You know, I kind of want to park there for a minute, and I'm going to go back to the basketball thing.
Sure.
But I think you hit something for me. When you're growing in something, how awkward it can be at first, because you're trying to learn your lane, you're trying to learn, and do you think that sometimes in those awkward phases, people write themselves off thinking, I can't get it, because if the growth has caused you to change, but the awkwardness that goes along with it may make it feel as though this is not it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's spot on, right?
Okay.
And my son Brandon and I was talking today about this.
Okay.
That people have gotten to the place where they don't desire to receive help.
Okay.
We talked about it just a few minutes ago. I think everyone should have a mentor.
Okay.
I don't care what level that you're on.
I agree.
You should have a mentor.
I absolutely agree.
Because it's good to embark on something, and most people do that. Right, but because of the awkwardness, the uncomfortabilities, right?
Yes.
The growth that may stunt. It may stunt. You may grow.
Woo, wait a minute,
period,
stop. So
stunt.
you're saying that growth could potentially stunt a person?
Absolutely.
Oh, go on and say it a little bit more.
And then they feel this failure.
Okay.
Right, and now we stop. And we don't go back and we don't try to get it back. We just stop.
Okay.
And then we move on to the next thing without fully understanding what we failed in, and what was the performance that caused it in the first place. So we take those bad habits over to the very next thing that we embark on, right?
I think it's phenomenal that you talk about. You saw somebody, and that also, along with the growth spurt, piqued you, and then you talked about mentors. So were mentors hard on you? Did they need to be hard on you? Were you the type of person that needed somebody to really kind of pull stuff out of you?
No. No.
Okay.
Because the curiosity alone, seeing this person, how they developed to this point.
Okay.
I wasn't there when they started playing.
Okay.
But I see the point that they are right now. Okay. So I attached myself to that person. Okay. Right? And that person didn't say, hey, you know what, I'm going to lose my talents so that I can make your talents better.
That's good.
Right?
That's good.
They continued to let me hang around. And then at one moment, the basketball coach came out, and there was 3 of us there. And I'm telling you, I couldn't play.
Okay.
It was simple as that.
Okay.
And there was an argument between the other 2 students that who was the best. And we decided to answer that question by asking the coach. Okay. And the coach says, I'm going to select, and I'm going to tell you guys that Russell will be the better of all of you.
Oh, wow.
And I'm saying, how is that? Because we need these people, coaches and mentors, to drive the potential that's in us to manifestation.
That's good.
Right.
That's good.
So that's what we had with our coach, Coach Lewis. Right. Okay. He drove us non-playing guys. Okay. It's a funny story. The only reason I didn't make the basketball team at all, I tried out. Okay. And they said at the end of the thing, they said, hey, the people that I talked to want you to go over and tell this guy to write your name down, and we'll see you at practice next week. And so I said, well, he didn't say who. He didn't talk to me. I just went over and told the guy, Coach said write my name down on the paper, right?
Oh,
and so that's how it started.
Really?
But that's how it started, and Coach Lewis started to hone us in on how to play.
Okay, so I'm gonna fast forward to your senior year in high school.
Okay.
At this point, I remember some of these trips.
Sure.
I remember being thinking we were your cheerleaders, thinking we were. I mean, as a kid, there were some people I wanted to fight because I couldn't take when people was booing you and all of that kind of stuff. We get to, there's a championship game, and we're downstate in Champaign, Illinois, and you're playing against Effingham, and these people want Effingham to win with fervor. I want to say even at that age, and I don't know if you felt it, but I almost even felt a little racism.
Absolutely.
In the crowd. And so when you're watching these clips and you're 17, 18, what is going on in your mind when you hear all of these people cheering against you, but you know there's a goal in front of you?
Oh, yeah. The West Side helps you with that.
West Side? I'm sorry, you got to give a shout out to the West Side again.
It helps you a whole lot with that, right? Because there's a whole lot of adversities, right?
Okay.
There's not a whole lot of people pulling for you.
Wow.
Right? There's a lot of solo acts, if you will.
Okay.
So when we introduced, our gym probably was, we called it a cracker box, and it was really just that.
Okay.
Right? So our crowd was always up on us.
Okay.
Right? And when we would go to these other gyms, they would be, in our minds, magnificent.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because of the structure that they had.
Okay.
And the equipment that they had.
Okay.
Right? We didn't have all of that. Right?
Okay.
So when we went downstate, it was more of us against everybody.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
We didn't really, we knew the possibilities that we could be cheated because we were an all-black team.
All black.
Right? With a black coach, right?
Okay.
Well, we had one white guy, right? That he was a coach, right?
Okay.
So but for the majority of it, we were all black, and we were going down to Champaign, Illinois to play in the state tournament.
Okay.
And where black teams did not fare well.
Okay.
Right.
I remember when I was watching one of the clips, they were saying that this is probably one of the best games they had ever seen before. And I'm not exactly sure if it was the best game that they had ever seen because of what was happening on the court or what was happening in the arena.
Sure.
And so you win. You win against all of these odds.
Yes.
Where is your confidence? Where is your humility at this point?
My confidence was, again, in my upbringing.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
That we went to church.
Okay.
We believed in God. So as we're in the locker room, I have a cornflake top box.
Okay.
Top of the box that I write on their state championship.
Okay.
And I take it and I insert it into my Bible, which I carry, and it was in the 23rd Division of Psalms. Okay. So we put it in there, and we touched and agreed, and we prayed. Yeah. And we went out and we won. Okay. But that does not protect us against racism. Yeah. Right? It doesn't protect us against people that truly rooting for us but don't like us at the same time, right? Yeah. Or the referees, how they're going to call a game. We still have to go out and perform. It's amazing because I don't ever remember you, and if you did, I don't ever remember you losing your cool. Even when it was obvious you was fouled. Sometimes I think in life, especially with us of people of color, we lose our top because we feel like we're not handled justly. Understood. How would you say how did you stay cool? How did you stay focused on don't lose your mind at this point? Got it. We had a goal. Okay. And the goal wasn't when we arrived at Assembly Hall. Okay. The goal was in the premature stages of training camp, right? Okay. Going to school, making the grades, right? So we had to build this. You just can't go, you know what, I'm just going to show up at the championship game and I'm going to perform well. Okay. I'm going to help others perform well. That's just not going to happen.
It doesn't happen in the game. It happens before.
It happened before the game.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it happens
That's a good
before
point.
before you get there.
I want to kind of park there for a second, because I think sometimes people think just because you have talent and just because you have skill that you can just jump into something and you're going to automatically win. There are cases where people have favor falls on their life, but there's still preparation that has to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it has to go. And so I want to let's drive down to West Lafayette.
All right.
Okay, so you talked about at Manley High School.
Yes.
That all black team.
All black team.
Now you're going to Purdue, Boilermakers.
Yes.
Diverse team.
Very.
Was that a big adjustment for you?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
It is a big adjustment. Only to the fact is, hey, I've been around people of different color. Okay. Right. Okay. But I have not been friends with people of different color.
Wow. Okay.
And most of the people that were of different color were more so recruiting me because of my talent, not because of my actual character.
Wow.
Of who I am.
So when you know that, when you know that people may not genuinely know or care for you, that they're after something, how do you manage that? How do you handle those relationships?
I stay true to who I am.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And stay true to my character. Okay. And understand that not only do I have flaws, people have flaws as well.
Right.
And so this is how we come together and we have these discussions. Okay. We talk. Right? We don't have the stereotypical things that we're just saying, you know what, because if you're a different color, the stereotype tells me this is how you act, this is how you should be. Okay. Right? We actually should be face to face having conversation.
We should.
Right? And if that forum is not available, right, then racism will definitely
rear its head.
Yeah. And it'll hold fast.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
But if you have some interaction with folks and understand the content of their character and understand that everybody is not like a person that would put a cross out in the back of your dorm and burn it, right? That's good. That you'll be able to have the righteous judgment of folks and say, you know what, they have flaws as well. Absolutely. Right? Okay. But if I'm focused enough, I should be able to obtain anything that I go after. Okay. If I have the right resources, if I have the right mentorships. Okay. If I'm in the right places, if I'm doing the right actions. Okay. I should have that.
I got 2 questions for you. The first one is, there are quite a few people from the West Side that was playing at the same time as you were.
Sure.
How difficult was it for you to be compared to these guys all of the time? I'm sure it was. You got your Isaiah Thomas. Absolutely. I remember Isaiah Thomas lived in back of our house. His family. Yeah. I went to school with one of his nieces. You got Doc Rivers, who was out in Maywood doing his thing. There were so many others. How did you manage the pressure of the comparisons?
It's tough. I mean, we would be in the newspapers, right? Taylor Bell, and they would always say, hey, you know what, this person is going to be the player of the year before we even play a game, right? Okay. And so they would put us at odds against each other at that time. But the pressure in sports is always looming. It's always going to be there. Okay. Right? Not only the people that you in your peer set that you're competing against, but the people that are coming behind you. Okay. Right? Fortunately for us, we had people that went before us. Okay. Right? Like a Isaiah Thomas, like a Mark Aguirre, a Terry Cummings. They went before us and kind of set the pace for us coming off of the low income side of the territories, right? That's good. So they allowed us the avenues to come in and play. Okay. So it almost developed as a brotherhood versus, hey, you know what, I don't like you because you play for this particular team, or I don't want to be around you. Okay. But we more so said, you know what?
Kind of developed this thing.
This brotherhood, right? And I didn't meet some of the guys for a while, right?
Oh, wow.
Until we had these dinners and we would work in different areas together or different.
So you only knew what you read about or what
that's
you saw?
Pretty much that's it.
At this point, when you're in college, you've been playing for some years now.
Yes.
What's going on in your body? What's happening with your legs? What's happening with your knees? What's happening with your back? You're playing, 20, 30 games?
Correct.
Hard, I mean, like war.
We're going out.
We're going out. What's going on with your body?
Body is, there's some endurance. Personally, there was nothing wrong until we played Simeon in high school.
Okay.
In a tournament game, going to venture to go downstate.
Okay.
And I got tangled up with this young man.
Okay.
And he fell back. My leg was under him, and I fell a different way, and I injured my left leg.
Okay.
Right. So I'm saying that to say this. I played my entire career after that point.
In pain?
Not only in pain, but on one leg.
Wow.
Because my leg really never, even after surgeries, my leg never recovered to its full.
Wow.
But this is mentally wearing as well as it is physically.
Okay.
Because things that I would have normally done now becomes difficult. Under that anointing, I was able to play.
Okay.
And play at a very high level.
Okay.
Continuously. But my acknowledgement was not of myself during this time. My acknowledgement was that God was helping me to accomplish what I was going after. He put the right people in my life.
Okay.
My coaches. This was my senior year.
Okay.
And then I went to Purdue under the same injury with Coach Katie. And
did they know?
They knew.
They knew?
They knew, but you're talking 18-year-old kid that possibly should heal up at any moment, right?
Okay.
If I had that same injury today, you're talking anywhere from, a year at the age that I am.
Okay.
But then they knew.
They knew.
But I'm playing at a high level.
Okay.
But they didn't, and I had to have surgery after my freshman year at Purdue.
Okay.
Right.
So now that we know that really after this game in high school, the rest of your career was in pain. You're in 1983, you're drafted.
Correct.
Well, let's go back. You make the declaration that you're going to leave school early.
Yes.
I read an article somewhere that said that, and I don't know if this was your quote or if this is somebody pulling this from you, that you felt the pressure to provide for your family. And so you left school early. Is that true?
I think there's an imbalance, maybe too much weight on that.
Okay.
As I was actually ready to leave school.
Okay.
Right.
It was your decision.
It was
nothing.
my decision.
Okay.
I did want to provide some things for my family.
Okay.
Because we didn't know we were poor. And I wanted to, and I've explored some new options.
Okay.
And my God-gifted talent would even open up more doors for us.
Okay.
So yeah, in the statement that we prepared, it was that, hey, I want to be able to not only play basketball, but I also want to be able to provide for my family.
I know there's no do-overs.
Mm-hmm.
There's no do-overs in life. In retrospect, do you think that staying another year would have benefited your NBA career, or do you think it happened exactly how it was supposed to happen?
Well, I have no regret on it now.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And I need to explain that a little bit. At that time, after declaring and going and having a shortened career,
okay.
I had plenty of regret. I want to tell you about a month ago, Magic Johnson left the Lakers organization, and he was on Stephen A. Smith's show talking about his decision to leave, and they were telling him, you shouldn't have did it that way. You should have talked to LeBron. You should have did this, that, and the other. And he says, I'm not a regretful person.
That's good.
And I went, I don't understand what he just said.
Okay.
Because I've been told and taught that life is full of regrets.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I didn't take the time to understand what that meant, right?
Okay.
So what he was saying is I went straightly praying and went into my Bible and trying to understand this.
Okay.
And so for the Christian, it is that we have forgiveness. So things that we may have done wrong in our past, we ask and we receive forgiveness for that.
Yeah.
It don't mean that people are going to forgive us because we ask,
right.
But our duty is to ask, and now the burden should be lifted up off of us.
Wow.
Regret keeps you in the place
Okay.
that you made the mistakes.
Okay.
So if I said, hey, I went to the podium, made the declaration because of what took place thereafter, I regret that, then I'll still be at the podium.
Okay.
Right?
That's pretty good.
So I have to forgive.
Yeah.
Right?
Even yourself.
Even myself.
Yeah.
To progress forward.
Yeah.
Even though it may not be the way it should have been handled, or it should have been the way that we should have had a little bit more, or whatever that was. Okay. It didn't matter. It was the time that we did it. It took place. Okay. Right? Now I understand that even if I make a mistake, the way I rule the mistake out is I have a short-term countermeasure to repair it, and I have a long-term countermeasure to fix it, so it doesn't happen again. So my job is now not to go back to the podium. My job is to go out and talk to other young men that are talking about, hey, should I leave, and how does this decision weigh, and what should I say?
You know, I think that's so powerful, because I think what you said is we live in a regret, but there is a way to repair it by going back to what you said initially, mentoring people.
Absolutely.
And I believe that when you come through something, right, I believe that you can identify that same spirit, that same struggle that somebody else has on, because now you're keen.
Absolutely.
Why do we not rescue people? Why do we not find the redemption of ourselves through others? Why do you think that's so hard for us?
Because of self-righteousness.
Okay.
Right? People don't desire your help. They desire to be the discoverer of whatever they're trying to do. Right? Wow. You see this in our children, right?
Okay.
Our children do things. We have our children, and they do things, and they think this is the first time this has ever happened.
Okay.
And my parents don't know anything about this.
Okay.
Right? And this is far from the truth. People have gone, I heard this as well, that I can read a book.
Okay.
And I can read a book in 2 hours. And I can understand what it took somebody 40 years to accomplish. I can get it in 2 hours.
Okay.
So I need to understand I need resources. I need to read. I need to mentor. Okay. I need to help people. I need to show myself friendly. Yeah. So that people are receptive when I come toward them to say, hey, I'm here to encourage and to help you, right? And people be able to receive that because they've been taught for so long. You know what? Go to school, get your degree, and you'll get a job.
And that's not always
the case.
Next time on Soar Again.
Here's the thing. We were brought up that way. Okay. Right? So there was always, all the way through college, I had this thing for God. Yeah. I mean, I'm preaching in my basement, right? Yeah. I'm singing in the choir. Yeah. Right? I'm attending my uncle's church. Yeah. We're just having a good time in the Lord. Yeah. Right? But my detachment was when I started to experience more things outside of the Word of God. Outside of the church, outside of what I already knew. It broadened. As I got more money in my hand, more doors opened. And if you take that same mentality into those doors, you just have a bigger problem.